new slip shear from Via is like nothing else in the industry. This is a truly remarkable shear that's completely built for slide cutting technique. You can slide cut both dry and wet hair with the slip shear, and it'll allow you to create effects and do things that you just have never been able to do with an ordinary shear before. As you can see here, Allie is vertically slide cutting, and she's doing it in kind of a sculpting way. You notice that she'll gently close the shear, and she only takes off a little bit of hair each time. Again, the slip shear is not designed to cut straight sections of hair. It's really built for slide cutting, and it does a remarkable job and a really unique job of slide cutting. Again, she slides through the section, just trying to remove some weight without taking any of the length. And you can see that it's very effective for that, and she's creating an enormous amount of texture in the hair as she goes. And again, if you were to try this with an ordinary scissor, you'd probably lop off the complete section some of the time and get yourself in trouble. So the slip shear allows you the creative freedom of sculpting hair, and you'll see many techniques during this haircut and ways that you can use the slip shear. Now here's another very creative way to use the slip shear. You'll see how Allie is picking up sections, and then she'll come in from either side so that she kind of builds points into the hair by tapering the hair in from both sides of the section. Again, something that you just wouldn't want to try with an ordinary shear, and yet it's easy to do with slip and fun. Now slip is a rotating shear as well, and Allie is a real fan of rotating shears, so you'll see how she's able to take advantage of it. In this case, her thumb is pointing toward the back of the shear so she can work with her elbow down. You saw a moment ago how she could flip the shear upside down and come down that section without having to elevate her elbow. So if you watch someone like Allie work, you'll see how she really has learned very naturally and consistently to take advantage of the design of the rotating shear. And so slip really adds another dimension with the flexibility of the way you can approach the handle and approach the hair. And by the way, speaking of flexibility, look at this, the way she's weaving in the section, drawing the hair into the blade. Again, this really creates separation and texture like nothing else, and with the slip shear you can do this without fear of lopping off a whole section. So it's really kind of a fun tool to work with. It allows you creative freedom like no other shear in the industry. Now here comes another interesting technique where she'll pick up a section, twist it, and then slide cut along the section with the shear, creating a tremendous amount of texture. Now I've seen this done before with a razor, but here's a scissor that you can do it with as well, and this allows you to create really shattered looks. Very exciting technique, and something again that's fun and creative to do, something that you can do with a slip shear. As you can see, this is a very creative way to work. Now, as you watch Allie move through the haircut, you'll see that there's a method to her madness, but it really comes down to constantly judging the amount of hair that's still there, the kind of texture you're trying to create, and working very freeform. So this is a true opportunity to be creative. And you know, I spend a lot of time going to shows in Europe and seeing some of the most advanced hairdressing in the world. This is the kind of work that I'm very excited to see. And Allie would be the first one to tell you that the slip shear really makes it possible to push the limits of what you can do with hair. It's truly an opportunity to sculpt with the hair. You'll notice also that she's constantly looking at the separation that she's creating, and she's using the direction that she approaches the hair to kind of affect the way the hair is going to fall. So when she's cutting from right to left, she's driving the hair to the right. When she's cutting the opposite direction, you know, she's moving the hair the opposite direction. So it really is something that you probably want to play with on a mannequin. To be honest with you, this is only the third haircut that Allie's done with these shears, and very quickly she's adapted to them, and she's had compliments on the first two haircuts, and I can tell you because I saw how this one comes out already. Her model this time, Jen, was very, very pleased with the way her hair came out. This is kind of a rock star haircut with a lot of texture, a really, really fun, modern cut. As you can see, after finishing the first section that she had let down, she's gone back in and let down another section with a U-shaped parting around the back of the head, and she's going to continue creating the same kind of texture. Now, I've deliberately left this video very complete, so you're seeing essentially the entire haircut. I've cut almost nothing out, and it allows you to really see how the haircut develops. So you're basically going to be working in these three layers. That first layer that was put down, now this section, and then she'll work again on the top section in a slightly different way. So she'll do this combination of weaving type cutting, of cutting from both sides of the section, depending on where on the head she is, in order to create the kind of movement and texture that she's looking for. And again, this is a project that's in the eye of the artist. It's very much a free-form style of cutting, so it's a chance to really put your creative hat on and be free and open with your scissor. And again, because of the way the slip shear is designed, it's not going to lop off whole sections. It's going to only take fine slide cutting sections. Of course, you could take a lot of hair if you really pushed hard into the hair. But as you see, she very gently closes the shear as she works down the blade, and the hair slips on the blade, which is what allows it to slide cut so smoothly. There's no drag, there's no tearing of the hair. I had my haircut with this shear as well, and it was one of the most pleasant haircuts I've ever had. Jen commented at the end of this haircut that never once did the shear pull at all. it really feels like kind of a different way of having your hair cut, but certainly there's no pulling, no dragging, no tearing of the hair involved. Now here again, Allie's going to demonstrate the advantage of the rotating handle. You know, most shears you'd be up in this kind of position if you had a shear that could do this and you were trying to do this technique, but the rotating thumb allows her to drop her elbow down very comfortably. So not only is slip a remarkably different shear from anything else you've used before, but it's also a super comfortable, super ergonomic shear that allows you to avoid having to cut from awkward positions. So Allie's going to repeat this several times here, where she'll show you again what you'd look like if you had a fixed handled shear, and then what you can do with slip because it's a rotating handle. And again, Allie cuts every day in the salon with rotating shears, so for her, she has to consciously think about raising her elbow like that. For her, her natural tendency is to work comfortably with her elbows down, her wrists straight, her hand in an open, comfortable position, and so she has to kind of remind herself to demonstrate things like that from time to time. Again, slip is remarkable too because you can do a haircut like this where you're going to see a radical change. Jen's hair is going to look monumentally different from the way this haircut started, and yet we're not taking any length. Throughout this haircut, basically Allie is working vertically in the hair with a lot of slide cutting techniques, creating a lot of texture, a lot of internal layering, but there's really no length being removed. So Jen's going to end up with a completely new look, and yet she's still going to feel like she's got her length. Now a couple of things to note is, again, you can control the amount of hair the slip shear will remove by how quickly you close it as you're going through the section. So if you want to just take fine pieces of hair, you're going to close it very slowly. If you want to take more hair, you're going to close it a little quicker. Also, you can take more hair by drawing the hair into the blade as you close. So in some of the techniques that Allie uses here, you'll see that she's kind of moving her left hand with the hair into the blade as she's pushing with her right hand through the hair, and that's going to allow her to control the amount of hair that she's removing and direct the hair in the direction that she wants. Now you can see that she's kind of wiggling the shear a little bit as she goes through. She wants to create very open separation down here, so she's trying to remove a little bit more hair. And again, the beauty of the slip shear is that you really have to go out of your way to take a lot of hair, so it's really designed for techniques where you're trying to create texture and you don't want to get in trouble. And again, by directing the hair with the points of the shear, you can create the separation and the movement in the direction that you want. Now in a close-up like this, you really can see the way the slip shear works, the way it allows you to just sculpt through the hair and take just the amount of hair that you want based on how quickly or slowly you close the blade, how much you're holding the hair into the blade. So it's a very, very, very creative tool to work with. Another fun thing about slip is that it's not really replacing any tool that you have. This is an entirely new tool in your arsenal, and it really gives you a creative freedom that you've never had with any other shear. Unless by chance you have a $1,000 pair of Hikari dry cutting shears, which work very much the same way, except they don't have the comfortable rotating handle. So now, working from the crown, you'll see Allie is going to take pie-shaped sections in this final section of hair that she's working in. And you'll see that as she picks up the section, if there's any of the hair that she's already cut there, she'll knock that away and not work on that. But the rest of it, she's going to vertically slide cut in an upward direction. And this is going to create a tremendous amount of lift so that the hair will really have a lot of fullness to it, and the texture will really pop. So once again, you can see how hair is being cut by the slip shear in a way that's really different from an ordinary cutting shear. Now once again, Allie here is going to show you the uncomfortable way you'd have to work if you had a fixed handled shear like this. But because slip is a rotating shear, she's going to show how she can drop her elbow down, make her thumb go parallel to the handle instead of perpendicular, and it allows her to work in a much more comfortable body posture. Of course, her first inclination is to do that anyway. And look at the lift she's getting. Look at the way that's really starting to create a nice little bubble on top of the head as she continues to take these pie-shaped sections and just slide cutting vertically taking very little hair, not taking any of the length, but creating texture and creating that lift and support that's really going to give a fullness and a roundness to this cut. You see how she keeps checking that she's getting the kind of lift that she wants. And now you'll see that she's starting to pick up some of the hair she's cut already. So she's going to knock that out of the section and work on the hair that's previously uncut. So she's continuing to work in kind of a circular way around the head, and each time she picks up a section, if there's some of the hair that she's previously cut, she's taking that away and then working on the remaining hair. Now she's starting to work in a downward motion and creating some texture on the surface of the hair as well as the texture underneath that she created by cutting upward. And again, if she determines that the first time through she hasn't taken enough hair, there's no harm in hanging on to that section and going back through again and removing a little more until you've got the kind of weight and feel that you're looking for. Again, we're talking creative hairdressing here, not for the faint of heart, hairdressing that's really designed to unleash the creative abilities of stylists who really have vision and can really see what they want to do with the hair. Here you'll see what I was talking about when I mentioned how sometimes you want to actually drive the hair into the blades with your left hand as you're pushing the blades through with your right hand. And here she's doing that, where she's kind of swinging the hair into the blades. Again, it allows you to take a little more weight and create a little more dramatic texture. Now here's a little classic slide cutting, but look at how different it is from with an ordinary shear. You know, if you were to do this with an ordinary shear, you'd be whacking off a lot of length. But here she's able to just take out little pieces, really explode the texture without any fear of really lopping off the length and taking a big chunk of hair. You can really see what I mean here. You know, she's taking hair, but she's taking very little hair. She's able to keep working over it until she gets the kind of effect she wants, until she sees the kind of separation and the kind of weight that she's looking for in the fabric. Again, very creative working with this type of tool. And now finally framing the face with just gentle texture and really creating a very shattered fringe. So again, this shear is so versatile. There's so many ways you can use it, and look at the effect she's getting in the hair. I want to remind you, these are very special shears. They're designed for slide cutting in dry hair or wet hair. Don't try these techniques with an ordinary shear, or you will get yourself in trouble. But with a slip shear, you can get creative like this, you can really have fun, and imagine doing the fringe on your next client like this, and just creating that very dramatic eyeline, very attractive look, and doing it really with the ease and assurance that the shear is really going to allow you that kind of creativity. pointing out that as you close the shear, it forces the hair to move down the blade, so you're creating texture on a variety of angles on the way out, and that's what makes the texture so interesting and really makes it stand out. Now Allie's going to use a little waxy kind of a pomade to really create the separation and texture. So this is an easy to care for hairstyle, something that a client can easily do themselves. You know, rub a little pomade in your hand and scrunch it up a little bit, create that texture, lift or cause it to show up in the hair and separate more. And really that's all she does for finishing, a little splash of spray at the end, and you end up with rock star hair. You know, a haircut that really kind of reminded me almost of Japanese anime, and that's why I decided to go with the kind of cartoon finish on this video. So I hope you really enjoyed seeing this haircut. I think it's obvious the transformation is tremendous, and yet all the length is there, and look at how happy Jen is.
Hair, the shears, it felt like butter going through them. It didn't feel like it was pulling my hair at all. It honestly felt like you were just cutting it.
These new carving shears are the best, most fun, innovative way to style hair in a whole new light. You feel like you're sculpting rather than cutting. It's like working on clay. It's a whole new canvas. The possibilities are endless.